Okay, I am go. Jorge, can you hear me? No. There he is. Obviously, that was a no. Yeah. And Christina's coming on. So I'm going to give it just a second. Hey, Christina, how are you?
Good. How are y'all?
Good, good, good. I'm going to go ahead and start because I know Cheryl is traveling. And so I'm not sure if she's going to join us tonight or not. If she comes in, then she'll be there. Let me see if Jorge, can you hear me? No, he's still not looking like he can hear me. Okay. Everybody else, you all can hear me? We're
Yes.
good? We're good? Okay, super. Before I start with your pictures, did any of you all have any trouble resizing your photographs?
Did I do it correctly?
I think you did. It looked like it to me.
Okay.
Now, anybody have any trouble resizing or need anything on that? Because if you look at this screen right here, if you're in Lightroom and either from library or develop, either one, library or develop, if you right click and do export, you get this screen right here. And when you do this screen, you can select which folder you want it to go to. And then you can select whether you want to change the name, like you have to put your name in front of it. You can select your resolution. Adobe RGB is your color that you would use, color space that you would use. And then down here, you can choose width or height. And in our case for class, we would do longest side. And that you pull that down and it goes to longest side. And then you set 1280 on the long side, the width, and then 96 pixels per inch right there. So that's if you're in Lightroom or if you work in Bridge, like I work in Bridge. If you work in Bridge, then you do a simple double click the photograph, let it go into Adobe Camera Raw, and then pull down the little icon that's right next to your photograph. If you're in Photoshop and you want to do it in Photoshop, then if you pull down image resize, so you just go up to your icons and pull down image resize, you'll see a screen that looks like this. And then the next, you'll change the resolution 96 and 1280 on the longest side, and then just click OK. And then it just automatically resizes your photograph. So in Photoshop, image resize. So you go up to the top, click on image resize. It originally shows how big your photograph is right there. And then the second, when you change this down here to 96 and your width to 1280, then that allows you to resize it. So then you just simply click the OK button. You all looked like you did okay, but just in case. And by the way, I wrote a blog post about it this week because Cheryl and I were emailing about it. And so just in case, it's on a blog post, but then you also now have the recording for that. Jorge, are you with us? Can you hear me now? Unmute yourself.
Yes, I can.
Good, good.
Sorry about that. I had so many problems with the headphones. It was crazy.
That's okay. I could tell. I could just tell by the look on your face that it wasn't working. Okay, it's wonderful because you all everybody sent homework in, and so I'm going to show what you all sent in and let you all talk about it a bit. Jim, you get to go first tonight.
Well, this is downtown Houston, just slightly missing nautical night, just slightly missed it. But it's in front of the square where the City Hall is.
Mm-hmm.
I originally wanted to shoot the back of the Opera House, but they didn't turn the lights on. So when I was set up and I hit nautical night, no lights.
Oh, wow.
So there goes my support of the Houston Opera Company. That's that picture, and that's my nighttime picture.
And what lens did you use, Jim?
This is the wide angle one. It was like 16 to 22,
16
somewhere in
to,
there.
okay. Canon or Nikon, Jim? Canon?
Canon,
16 to 35. Yeah. Yeah.
16 to 35. This was probably about 25, something like
Okay.
that.
Yeah. So you can once again see the starburst and what your signature starburst is on that just a bit. So it's,
That was F22. It
uh-huh,
was 15 seconds for the shot.
for the tail lights. Good job.
This is sunrise in Fulton Beach by the harbor.
Mm-hmm. With something
That's-
recognizable, right?
Right, that's my profile.
Yeah. your owl silhouette up there.
You mean that's not real?
No, that's
There you
not
go.
real.
And that's sunrise, and I didn't realize it till I developed it. You know, it has a single ray going down there,
Uh-huh.
and I guess if I was going to print this up, I might put a ray on the other side, but I didn't do it for the class.
Yeah. Now remember, when your sun gets up pretty high like that, it's hard to make a starburst out of it unless it's partially obscured by the clouds, or when it's down low and partially obscured by the horizon, then you can make a starburst out of it.
Yeah.
But once you
Yeah.
get up in the sky like that, it's a little harder to make a starburst out of it.
And this is actually a sunset. And I went to this place in the Bay, Poblano Bay, 3 nights in a row, and that's the best sunset I got. So I'm sticking to this one too. And I just thought it was interesting color and more of a traditional landscape because I incorporated more of the foreground.
Yeah, good job. Okay, Matt, your moon.
Okay.
And you told me that it was a 500 millimeter, so I went ahead and put 500 millimeter up there.
Right, it was. I was using the 500, and I found out my photo pills wasn't calibrated correctly that session, because I kept watching for it where it was telling me it was going to go, and then all of a sudden back over further to the east, it was there.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
But no damage was done. I was able
Yeah.
to get in there and capture it. That was the close-up one, and then I had one with the little bit of pine tree in the foreground.
And then, and you know, you did a nice job here. It's really, really clear, nice and precise, and then still have a little bit of that blue sky as opposed to a solid black sky. So
Right.
did a nice job on this one. And then here's your smaller one with a little bit of our ever-present pine trees.
Right. It was about the best foreground I could come up with, and it was a little bit of on that one.
Yeah.
But it was with the 500, and I didn't only had that lens with me that night, so I wasn't able to change lenses. So the last one with the spire in it, it was also with the 500, but I think
Okay.
I chalked it down to 400.
And you know, when you process this one, I bet if you move your exposure down just a little bit, that you'll be able to recover some of that detail out of that moon.
On the one with the spire,
This one right here.
I'm not catching what you have on the screen. I'm just seeing you.
Oh, you're just seeing me? Am I
Yeah, I need-
sharing screen?
I see.
I see it.
I wonder what I'm doing wrong.
You have to go up to the top and there should be a view options and
Right.
side-by-side mode.
Side by side mode. There we go. Thank you, Christine.
It takes us all, man. You know, it's the only way we can do it.
No,
Good tip.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
so this is one, I think if you just reprocessed and underexposed ever so slightly, that you're going to be able to pull out a lot of detail in that moon.
Okay. I'll give that a try.
And then here's with your spire.
Right.
Now, there's an interesting thing with this that I want you all to notice, because this is your earlier picture with the same tower, correct, Matt?
That is correct.
Now, notice that when the moon's at a certain distance above the Earth's horizon, we can get a pretty good exposure on it. 4 minutes later, whoa, sorry, go back. 4 minutes later, when it's higher up at the sky, our exposure is already starting to get rotten.
Correct. See that.
So there's just this minimal amount of time when it's close enough to the horizon that we can get a nice exposure. If we let that moon get too high in the sky, then it's just a plain individual shot of the moon at that point.
Right.
Because the exposure just gets too much. And then here's Matt's bridge. Woohoo!
Yes, that was my my twilight, and that was the Fred Hartman Bridge, and I did a longer exposure on it.
Uh-huh.
I think I wrote down that was like that one was a 6-second exposure I did.
Yeah.
To drop. I had to get my ISO down. I got it down, but I like that one.
Yeah.
When I used the 70 to 200. I kind of got in tighter on that one with my 70 to 200.
And then here you backed up, or you got in a little tighter on this one.
Actually changed locations on that one. It doesn't look like it, but I changed locations a little bit on that one and got it a little bit tighter too.
Yeah. Now I have to tell you about this location, Matt. I didn't tell you when we were talking earlier, but I'll tell the class. I wanted, when Far Country Press published my portfolio of Houston pictures, I wanted the Fred Hartman Bridge in there. And so I went and studied and studied and studied. And as Matt found out, there's an old marina on the Baytown side at the base of the Fred Hartman Bridge. And that is a wonderful place to do photography from. Is it abandoned marina still, Matt?
Oh, it's actually functioning. And then on top of that, they've built a restaurant called O'Neill's right there in this marina, and it was a happening joint. I mean, they had live music going, and they had people. It was a party atmosphere, and it set itself up and gave a great view of the bridge. So I was like, I'm going to come back to this place.
Yeah, and then that makes it a nice, safe place, because when I photographed it, it was an old abandoned, or it looked like abandoned, a marina. Nobody was there, and so for me, it wasn't exactly the safest place in the entire world. But that restaurant there, that makes it great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah, good job. It's a lovely shot.
This one was taken this was a previous photo. I tried to catch the starburst and the morning sunrise coming up off of Crystal Beach, and trying my hand at doing like that. That was with my 15 to 35 wide angle,
which has a nice starburst to it.
It does, and that was another shot, different one. I just tried to get some of that seaweed in the front.
Good job.
And then that one caught my eye. I was out there and the sun was coming up, and there was one single shrimp boat out there all by himself, and you could see a silhouette, it was silhouette, and so I tightened it up there on that one and cropped that one in.
Good job.
And then that was that was the Saturday night, again, the Fred Hartman. And that's back, I'm back onto my 15 to 35 there. And just had a great sunset that evening.
Good job. Excellent job. Yeah. So now you all know a new location, right? So it's really good. There is one shot of that Fred Hartman Bridge that I have always wanted to get, but the only times I've gone out to get it, I've been totally skunked by the photography gods. And it's underneath the two spans. The moon sets in the morning.
Wow.
But I've never been out there when it was clear enough. I've been out there several times waiting, but never when it was clear enough.
Right.
So now y'all can do it. And then another silhouette, Matt.
Another silhouette. This is again off Baller Peninsula, looking out back to the channel. And I was trying to get the sunrise, and I got Texas City over here to the left of the frame on a different picture, and I was catching tanker ships coming by, and I just happened to kind of look over a little bit further, and there were these pilings with these pelicans on, and good golden hour. So I went over there and tightened in a little bit. And I thought that was a
Good job. Good job. Jorge.
Okay, after seeing all you guys' pictures, this is embarrassing.
Okay.
Well, I find out a couple things when I was doing this homework. A, I need to learn more about my camera, and second of all, and most important, I realized my tripod and myself have in the same time zone, different places at the same time. I put the tripod in the car, just thinking maybe I'll catch it on the way home. I parked the car, go take a picture. Then I realized I need a tripod by the time I came back. So it was a nightmare. So anyway, most of the days were cloudy. I couldn't see much. This was one of those few days that had the opportunity to catch. And this was the best I could do to catch the sun, trying to get the start.
Mm-hmm.
But fortunately, because of my lack of tripod, I left it at home when I was doing this. I have to zoom out instead of just trying to get tighter to the trees. So I know it wasn't that great. I did discard all the pictures in which I was doing f/22, which became really, really dark.
Yeah.
So I was playing back and forth between 22 and 18, and we see how I could get it the best I could.
Yeah. And which lens were you using here, Jorge?
This one it was a zoom lens. I think it is at 18-400.
Okay.
Is a time run.
Okay. Oh yeah, that 18-400. Okay. Because there is, I zoomed in for you, there is a starburst there.
Right.
And, so there, if you go to f/22, yep, there is a starburst on this lens.
I was afraid that having zoomed into the sun at the same time I was trying to hold it in my hands, it was going to be shaking.
Exactly.
So that's why I wasn't, I wasn't brave enough.
Yeah.
This one was an attempt to get a background, a dark silhouette on a bright background.
Mm-hmm.
The sky, the day wasn't that dark. This, I think, overdid it. Did it under exposure.
Yeah.
Maybe, way too many times. And again, I didn't do the close up for that. I tried I think I sent you a second one in which I tried to do the close up by hand, but it wasn't not as sharp as this one was.
Yeah. It is nice and sharp. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and there's your other one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I tried. And the only way I did was to kind of basically put my camera on top of the car and try to aim in that direction. And that was, I felt brave enough to do it.
Yeah.
I should have thought about it when the sun was out, but it was too late by then. That's it.
Yeah. And then here's your twilight shot.
The twilight, as you can see in the sky, is cloudy. So it was either the HV where I was at that point, that was the parking lot where I was able to manage to take those pictures, or there was a cell tower nearby, but this one gave me the more contrast, different colors. Even they had the car headlights at the same time I was taking the picture. So
Yeah, and
So-
I think this one's beautiful. I mean, the twilight sky and sometimes if we have to practice even with those things that happen to be close to us, and if it happens to be our HEB, we
Mhm.
perfect our photography skills there, and then that way when we are where we're supposed to be, and then we can know how to take the picture. So it's okay with me if it's HEB. Yeah, it works.
Thanks. Yeah, it works. Yeah, I definitely have to learn how to do more planning in the area. I have way too many trees around me. So I definitely have to look for places.
Yeah, good job. Good job. You did it. You did it. Christina.
So this is my twilight picture, and I was obsessed with learning the sunburst. So I think I have like sunburst and everything, or anyway. So I had to go out with my son, and this was actually the last picture I took. He was in the car like screaming, but I was like, but the church looks so pretty and the lighting is right, we have to stop. So while Jorge, I had my tripod, I was fighting it and wanted to like throw it away, but I did manage to like basically hold it like a monopod and take this picture. So
And
I was happy.
Christina, if you ever are fighting with your tripod, you know it's the wrong tripod.
Oh, I know it's the wrong tripod. Trust. I told my husband, he was with me. I'm like, you see me fighting with this? You need a new tripod.
That's right. That's right. Yes. And you know what you did well here that I really, really like, this whole leading line of the church and then leading over to your starburst. You did a great job here. And now you also probably know, don't get too close to these strong lights in the foreground, because
Yeah.
you just needed to put your body one step over that bright light in the foreground.
Yeah.
But those are things we've got to learn, because we don't realize how bright some of these lights are until we actually put them in a photograph.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah, because they didn't look that bright when I was standing next to them.
Yes, exactly. But your twilight is beautiful. And what lens were you using?
An 18 to 55.
18 to 55, which isn't bad starburst for that 18 to 55 millimeter lens. That's got a pretty good starburst on it.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting, since it's just like the kit lens. that it would
Exactly.
look good.
It looks good. It looks real good. So, screaming child, rotten tripod, and a kit lens. You did a good job.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was the night before the full moon, and I was out trying to get a picture of it. And I had done the photo pills and tried, but it was hazy and the trees weren't working with me. So it was, around twilight. So I had never done the tail lights. So I tried my hand at that. Now I did crop out a large section because there's a sign to a neighborhood right there that was just so bright and overpowering it. But I still got the starburst on the street across, and the light showed up.
Yeah, you mastered your starburst now.
There's still more though.
Yeah.
So then when I went for my sunset picture, and this is, the recognizable silhouettes of the tower off in the distance, but this park was this is a golf course that's next to a playground where my son was playing. So working with what I had.
Exactly.
And it just was so cloudy, like the clouds it was very cloudy.
Yeah.
And that was fun. So, and then this was actually using the window of the truck to take this picture, because after we left, once my son had enough, we were leaving, and I was like, oh, the sky looks so much better here than it did. And I couldn't get out and take the tripod out because my husband would have killed me. But I thought this looked better.
Yeah.
Working with the sky that I had.
Yeah. And let's face it, just like what Jorge showed us and what you're showing us, this is our view of sunset.
Yes.
For a lot of us, and And it is what we have. So.
Yeah.
Yep. That's all we can do sometimes. That's all we have.
So that one actually did get the sun before it went down. I wish I could have changed to a different location, more to the west, but it worked out okay. But again, I really was playing with the starburst.
You got your starburst.
And obviously the street was there.
Yeah.
And I wish the street wasn't there. Yeah.
Yeah. We just, you know, sometimes we have to photograph what we have to photograph. So you did it. You did it. And, you know, we learn these things around home. And then when we are in those choice, absolutely beautiful locations, then we've got the skills already developed. So good job.
Yeah.
You did it. Oh, and I like this one.
That's gorgeous.
Yes.
Yes.
This one, so I did it 55 millimeters on this one with that same lens, balancing on a fence post. Because and that's a Muscovy duck, which are not pretty ducks at all, if you know what a Muscovy duck is. So it's not pretty. And I missed him. He had his wings out, but of course I was fidgeting and I missed that shot. But he was just standing in the most perfect spot as I was walking by. And so I almost like didn't take it, but then later I was like, it turned out really well.
Yeah, you did it. You know, you got your silhouette and you got your fountain on top of that. And then all the details around it are nice and crystal clear. So you got your shot. Yeah. Good job. And then Cheryl's not here tonight, so I'll just speak, you know, for her as the recording. She was fighting with the moon, just like you all were. And she got this shot with our famous pine trees around it. The shot that we get here in the Houston area. And so she did a good job. She got nice twilight sky, a little bit of a cloud that comes across it. And then she was able to get the big full moon later on up in the sky. And then I pointed out to her, I don't know if you all can see this. I think you can blow your screen up or you can enlarge your screen, or if you just want to look at it closer. The moon has a bit of a pixelated or muddy appearance to it. And she said that she had to crop it quite a bit. And then she tried to fix that cropping just a little bit. And so that kind of gave the little smudginess to it. So it's not a crystal clear, big full moon. And she said that if she got enough time, she would reprocess it and send it back. But I know she's traveling, so she probably didn't have enough time on that. But overall, though, a real nice, pretty full moon. Shanaki, you got your starburst.
I did. So I took the close up, and so you know me, Kathy. Once in a while, I'm like all left field. I don't get the exact shot that I'm supposed to get. So I did a few, you know, like Jorge did, like at the, you know, to the Whole Foods and stuff like that, and I was not very happy with it. I was like, okay, let me try something different. I like the colors on it. So this one doesn't have any, like, there is no saturation or anything. It's just pretty much as it came out of the camera, and I just, you know, liked it, and it got some, you know, blue sky. So it's not like the ideal shot that I wanted, but you know, I was like, okay, let me just do that. So
yeah. And what lens were you using?
On this, I used my 600 actually. So.
Okay, the 600. Wow. Yeah. So you've got a lot of magnification going on here.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Everybody, this is no criticism. I just want you all to notice it. Everybody look very, very closely and see where my cursor is, where all those little teeny black dots are. See all those little teeny weeny black dots? That's dust on your sensor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And why I point that out to you is that we see this best when we're at f22 or 32 or even 45. This is when you can see the most dust on your sensor. And so you should do a shot just like this every once in a while, looking up at the sky and put your lens on 22, 32, or 45, and then just scan around the picture and look for any of these little black dots, and that's dust on your sensor. So then you could go to someplace like Houston, what's it called? Photo Doctor, or one of the other companies in town that cleans sensors. So just as an FYI,
Okay.
because you notice this more when you're using f/22, 32, or 45. That's what we use on our landscape photography. So if you're on a trip and all you're doing are these beautiful grand landscapes, you're going to have sensor dust on those landscape photos, and it's hard to try to clean those off.
So it's not something I can try to do at home. I had to get it done professionally.
I wouldn't do it. No. I used to clean my sensor, and then all it took was me ruining one, and I haven't cleaned it ever since.
Okay.
So yeah, it is something that it's probably better to have the professionals do it.
Okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. So it's something we should do once a year, twice a year anyway. And then here you got this beautiful silhouette. Sunset.
And, yes, this is actually sunrise.
Sunrise, that's right. You were out at sunrise.
Sunrise, and this was at Cullinan, and it was hard to find a single tree. Meaning like there are a lot of trees. I mean, and I decided to take it because it was like it had that nice little glow on the water too. So, and the silhouette was good because it hid all that mucky stuff that was out there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Good job.
And so this was also at Cullinan, and it was, just as soon as the sun came over the tree line, I was waiting for this one. I didn't expect to get the starburst, but I was waiting for it to come so I knew I could see the lines, like the shadow, right? But I got the starburst too because I was doing it at f/22. So
Yeah. Yeah, I like all these lines down here coming
Right.
through the railing.
Right.
Good
right.
job.
Thank you. And so this one actually, so if you just go back to the previous one, Kathy. So on this one, I tried really hard to, how the sun itself came out very white.
Yes.
And I was trying to, I tried several ways in Photoshop to try to get that to be less white, and without like doing textures and stuff like that, and I couldn't, right? So I just did another one just with the texture so that I can, this one, small,
Good. Yeah, Janaki took my textures class, and sometimes it's just a way to salvage a photograph, And this is one of those reasons again why it's an underexposed by 1 or an underexposed by 2. So one underexposed by 1 is kind of your basic sunset, and then underexposed by 2 when that sun gets a little bit higher. Otherwise, it's just a glowing white ball in the middle of the photograph. But perfect reason for using textures. Yeah. Okay, good job. Good job. And I saw this in my file, and I just thought that I would show it to you. Because remember last week I said if we were close to the equator where Jorge and I have been, that twilight doesn't last for very long. And it really does last a little longer than I said last week. Last week I said something about it only lasted a couple of minutes, but this is just one chart for one day. And in San Jose, Costa Rica, the nautical twilight would be 24 minutes, but if you came here to Houston, it would be 28 minutes. And then in Pocatello, Idaho, moving further up the continent, it would be 37 minutes. But then once we got to Anchorage, Alaska, nautical twilight would be 67 minutes. And then you see that astronomical twilight right now in Anchorage, Alaska is going to last all night. So it's not as narrow on the equator as I alluded to last night, but you can see how it does change. Okay, so before I move on to, I wanted to show you, this was one of my full moons that I did recently. And once again, planning and all this other stuff, one of my full moons here, doing it as a landscape shot. and then zooming in on that same ridge line with, so this one is a 15 millimeter lens, and then this one is the 400 millimeter lens. So just playing around. Okay, and then I show you this because a student sent it in last time we did this class, and I was throwing away all the student work from last time, but I thought I would just send this to you as an inspiration that, you know, it's just an airplane flying in front of the full moon. And then there's that glint of light apparently coming through the windows of the airplane. So, you know, even though it's a full moon and it's, or not a great full moon, maybe there's something else that happens with it. So before I leave your homework assignments, what frustrated you? What'd you learn? Y'all were all pretty good about that, but frustrated you learned?
Frustrated with that photo pills.
Yeah.
No, I might say I've never, because of the good advice you gave us on the importance of the second part of the blue light, the nautical blue light for your exposure, which I
Yes.
never really thought about before, Kathy. And so what I found was the photo pills was off by 10 minutes in downtown Houston. So when I took that picture, I thought I had 10 or 15 more minutes of nautical light. It was already getting darker. It was the dark blue.
Yeah.
And that might just be because I'm incompetent reading it, or I didn't calibrate it right. But I never tried to fine tune it before like that.
Yeah.
I just looked for an hour of blue light because I was ignorant of it. So maybe a heads up, the same thing is, got to be a little careful with this old photo pills to get more experience with it for a nice precise shot like this.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I definitely watched some videos on photo pills this week. I probably spent more time than I should have looking at it and still felt the same, that I'm kind of missed the light in one night.
Yeah. You know, I still don't totally trust it. And as I said, I use time and date on the internet, and it tells me exactly how long twilight lasts, my twilight lasts. It tells me the compass direction for the moon. It tells me the compass direction for the sunset. And I've got a compass on my cell phone. And, you know, it's just, for me, there's just something to be said about a paper and pencil, good old map, as opposed to trying to rely on that, you know, on that app.
And it's called time and date.
Time and date.
Okay.
Yeah. I find it, by the way, Jim, by typing in sunrise, sunset, Houston. And it's called time and date, but I get it by sunrise, sunset, Houston. And then from there on, you can plug in your date, you can plug in your geographic location. That's how I found out those sunrises, those twilights for each one of those locations. And so I can just, you know, even if I'm traveling in the next year, I can plug in what my time and date is. And you know, it's easy. I trust that more than I trust photo pills. Let's put it that way.
So I use the time and date website too, Kathy, and I really liked it because it was pretty, I mean, it was pretty good. It was very accurate, you know, I mean, it was exactly the time that it said it was going to happen. So
good, good, good. And all the compass directions are all in there. And, you know, I can confirm it when I'm out there, but for planning, I think it works really well. Anything else? Any other big learning things? Christina needs a new tripod.
Yeah. And I used manual focus a little bit, which I'm not used to doing, and that definitely gave me some frustration. Obviously, I need some more work there. I tried to get a couple of silhouettes of some palm trees that are around here. That was beautiful. There were stars, but the working with it, the shutter speed that it kept throwing, they moved so much, and I was just
yeah. Okay. It's
I said-
frustrating.
It is. Is what, and Christina had it right, is the manual focus. I'm so used to the automatic focus that when you go into manual focus is, I will say that's the part of having to wear glasses and trying to go through the eyepiece, the viewer
Yes.
is you start wondering, you start kind of trusting yourself. Is this really in focus, or is just the way I'm looking at it?
Uh-huh.
And that was going to be one of my questions in this class today was, what can you do, especially when you have to wear glasses all the time? I know you can adjust the viewer to has certain rating so you can see clearly, but is that truly clear for the viewer? Somebody take a look at that picture.
And make sure that you have your diopter, right up by your viewfinder adjusted for your eye prescription.
Correct.
And yes, you can trust that.
Okay. Okay.
You can trust it. And we usually, once you have adjusted your viewfinder for your eye prescription, then you should be able to trust that.
Okay.
On the tripod, there is also on your back display panel, when you go to live view,
Right.
you can
Okay.
enlarge that by 100%. So you push your magnifying glass, and then you can move your focus ring until you're sure that that's at 100%.
Okay. Okay. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
So
Thank
you can do that. And then I think Matt's the only mirrorless in this class, right? Nobody else is a mirrorless camera? No? Because what we have in the mirrorless cameras is we have a new feature called focus peaking. And when you're focusing, the place that is focused will have a rim around it, either a red rim or a blue rim or a yellow rim. So you can always tell if you're in focus based on that little rim. And so it's called focus peaking, but that's only in the mirrorless cameras. So in the digital SLRs, you're just going into live view on the back of the camera. That would be your video mode, or else live view, and then enlarge it to 100% and then focus.
Kathy, may I ask, with the focus peaking, do you just try to make the peak appear, or do you keep moving until it's as thick as possible?
You make
That's
it
always-
appear. You make it appear.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. I don't think we would keep going. We just make it appear. Yeah. Jim, are you mirrorless?
Well, I have a Sony 6500.
Okay. Okay.
And it's a nice camera.
Yeah.
And so but it has the focus peaking in it. And I've always wondered about that, because you can keep making that line thicker and thicker.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I haven't used it properly, to be honest with you.
You might test it also on the Sony, because I know on the Canon, I like to go right to where I start seeing the focus peaking showing up.
Okay.
But Sony might have engineered theirs a different way.
Okay.
You might do some tests on that. Okay, so class 2, we are going to paint with light tonight. So class 2, this is introducing you to painting with light. So painting with light, you all might have tried this before, but this is simply where during our exposure for our twilight sky or whatever, we will take a flashlight or any other man-made light, and we will paint our foreground with that flashlight or with that man-made light. So this is called painting with light. You can paint with any color you want. This blue is a little on the weird side, but it's what I had at the time. And this just happens to be a little flashlight that when I click the back of it and I have a red light, or I click the back of it and I have a blue light, or I click the back of it and I have a white light, a flashlight. So this one just happened to be the blue of that. And I took that little blue flashlight and painted my little white cabin with the blue flashlight while I was running a star trail behind there. So you can paint with any color you want. And it's whether it looks good or not when it's all over with, and whether you like it 5 or 6 years from now versus just it being a novelty at the beginning. So you can paint with almost any light source that you might have. This is up in the Sandhills of Nebraska, and I'm going to introduce you to the beginning of star trails so that we can start working on star trails. But this photo is just to show you how you can paint with light with almost anything that you have. So I've set up my camera to do my star trail. I'm way out in the Sandhills, so I'm probably about a quarter mile away from my little cabin. And then I realized that, darn, I forgot my flashlight. So I can't paint the truck that's in front of me now. And I don't want to walk all the way back and then have to walk all the way back out. You all know that problem, especially since it's dark and I don't have a flashlight. But what I did have in my pocket was my cell phone. And so with my cell phone flashlight, I painted the wheels of the truck. I painted the side of the truck. I painted a little bit more the headlights of the truck. I put my cell phone inside the under the hood of the truck and just let it run for a while. And then I walked around the back of the truck and put my cell phone inside on the seat of the old truck and just let that sit there for a little bit, not very long, like, 15 or 20 seconds, didn't take much. And then I even put the cell phone underneath the truck. And you can't see me because I'm just wearing black pants and a long sleeve black t-shirt. So you can't see me. And I'm not staying still long enough so that you can see me. And other than the very first 1 or 2 pictures, I'm past twilight. So by the time I finish doing all of this, getting the star trail set up, making sure everything's working right, then I'm pretty much gone into past astronomical twilight or in astronomical twilight. And now you can't see me as I walk around the truck. So this is just painted with my cell phone. That's all it is. So we don't have to use any special lights to paint with. We can paint with almost anything that we have use of. So flashlight, whatever. But the ultimate and the best, in my opinion, is this Savage LED light. And these are lights that we use if we were taking a video. We put it in the hot shoe of the camera. It's a continuous light. So we would use this if we were taking video. The neat thing about this Savage light, if you look at the icons or the pictures on the box here, up at the top, I can move the light from high to low. So I can have a very faint light or a really, really bright light, and it is a bright light. But I can also change the temperature of the light. So going from pure white to pure amber, I can change the temperature of the light. So if we were doing a video and we wanted our subject to be more, or we wanted our subjects to be more bright light, then we would use the white. But if we wanted things to appear more homey and that type of stuff, we would use the amber light. The neat thing about this Savage light also is that it is rechargeable. And so we can plug it in and recharge it. It has a rechargeable battery pack that'll make it stay on for a long time. And on top of that, it's nice and flat. So it's about so big and it's about so flat, like that. Okay. So it's not a very big light at all, overall about so big. But it is a little bit on the expensive side. It's about $250. You can get cheaper ones. But if you're real serious about it, this Savage light is just visually a pleasing light. It's an easy to use light. And on top of that being rechargeable, it's fairly, you know, it means you're going to be able to use it for a long time. And then if you don't want to buy something like this, you can buy Roscoe gels. Now this is Digital After Dark kit. And these are gels like people at the Jim, you mentioned the opera. I'm an Alley Theater fan. If you've ever been to concerts or the opera or the theater, you see them changing colors of the lights all the time. And these are Roscoe Digital After Dark gels designed by my friend Kevin Adams, who's a master at night photography. And he went to the Roscoe people and agreed to work with them on the gels that we use for night photography. So these are the gels we would use for night photography. Honestly, I would probably I have the kit and I've only used two, the yellow, well, three, the yellow, the orange, and the dark orange. Those are the only ones I've ever used out of all the other colors in here. But Kevin does some other weird and crazy things that I don't do at night. So these are the Roscoe gels. And the nice thing about these is you just cut out a little piece and then you tape it on the front of your flashlight. And now your flashlight has the optically corrected color so that you can paint with light. So that's one nice, easy way to do this. So you just take your basic ordinary flashlight, use a rubber band, and just tape these on the top of them. And then I'm going to mention this several times because I want to make sure that you buy one of these. And this is the programmable shutter release. Anybody have one already? Yeah, Jim, you've got one. Matt, you've got one. Okay, Christina, you've already got one. Okay, good. Now this is what we're going to use for star trails. And then you can buy the Canon or the Nikon and they'll cost you about $250. Or you can buy the Velo Shutter Boss 2, and it's the Shutter Boss 2. Do not buy the wireless. It's a piece of garbage and it doesn't work. Buy the wired, and it only costs you $50. Mm-hmm. And so this is your basic old ordinary shutter release. You're going to use it for that, but then you're also going to use it to program your camera so that you can take star trails and you can go back inside and go to sleep, or Christina, tend to that crying baby, or whatever you all need to do so that the camera's just out there doing its job. So it's the Velo Shutter Boss 2 wired, and this is what we're going to use for our star trails later on. So going back to our painting with light, this is a flashlight. So this is what we get if we've set up the camera. Stars have all come out. And so this tells you that we're going toward the latter part of our twilight. And then we've set up the camera so that we're going to do pinpoint stars. You notice that the stars are just nice little dot circles out there. And then this is just taking a flashlight and just swiping through the area in front of us. So this is just your basic old ordinary flashlight. But this is the LED light that I just told you about. So the difference between this kind of white light like this and then this more golden light that's much more pleasing to the eye is the difference between a flashlight and the amber light on the LED light, or an amber gel on the flashlight. So for painting with the light, especially at twilight, it's just a lot better to use these amber lights. Also, you'll notice that there's a shadow up on the vane of the windmill. You see the shadow up here on the vane of the windmill. When I paint with light at night, I like to hold the light in one place. So in this case, it's coming from over on the right-hand side because it gives me shadows. If you take your flashlight and you just wave it all over the place, you get rid of all your shadows. And I don't think it looks as interesting when we don't have shadows on the foreground or shadows on the subject that we're lighting up. I think when it's all flat from just waving the light around, that it just doesn't appear as interesting. So here's one that I did a couple of weeks ago when we did the Block Creek ranch shoot. This is just an old tree that's out in the front yard in front of the house. And the left picture is the LED, the Savage LED light. And I just lifted it up, pointed it at the tree, and lifted it back down. So it's just up and down, just a little bit of light. That's all it takes. And then the picture on the right-hand side, I have stood over a lot further to the left and pointed the light from the left-hand side. And so that gives you more shadows on the tree branches. So I just think that the shadows on the tree branches look a whole lot more interesting than just that flat light on it. Do you see the difference? So when you're painting your subject with light, then you might want to continue just going off to one side and letting the light be continuous as opposed to just waving the light.
Kathy, when you refer to painting with light, you just shine the light to whatever subject you want or whatever area in the field that you want, but you don't leave the light on. You just kind of shine and then turn off.
Correct. 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 Now this light is bright.
Correct.
So I'm standing 10, 15 feet away from this tree. So I can just wait. I can just lift the light up and lift the light down. And what I do is I just put the light up against my belly. So because I can never find the on off switch. So I just lift it up and lift it down. And that's plenty of light.
So if you wanted to go dramatic in this example, I could shine the light to one branch of the tree, not the whole thing, just the branch, and that's it. So it will look like everything else will be dark, just that branch will be bright.
Exactly. 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 Or if you wanted to be dramatic and paint them different colors, you could paint them different colors if you wanted to. Okay. So this is it's called light painting. And so you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. For me, doing star photography, because you see now we've got the pinpoint stars all the way around. I like this as a way just to illuminate the foreground. So I'm not doing a whole lot, just kind of lighting and lighting down.
Kathy, if I may ask,
Yes.
do you ever leave the camera to do this on the tripod, or you always are near your camera? I'm trying to envision this.
Yeah, for this one, this is just a 20-second exposure. In fact, this is a 15-second exposure. So this is only 15 seconds.
Okay.
So I don't have to walk away from this at all. Yeah,
Okay.
This is just 15 seconds.
Well, like when you did your car.
Yeah.
How did you do that physically?
Yeah.
See what I mean?
I do. That's when I walk away from my camera, and I only do that in places where I know where it is. Like that was a cabin in the middle of the sandhills of northern Nebraska. There wasn't anybody else out there, and the cows were even behind fences. And so that's where I'll cover my camera with a towel to keep the dew off of it. But in something like this is just me standing out in the field.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the same type of thing. This is done on the Block Creek Ranch shoot also. I do these about 4 times a year. It's a ranch in Central Texas in the Hill Country that some photographer friends of mine own. So we run workshops in there as a photography ranch. So this is simply just down inside this water hole or this little creek, and then just raising up the light and lowering the light. That's all it is, just to light up the foreground. And then you see the stars in the background at twilight. So we've gone toward astronomical twilight here because now you're able to see all of the stars in the star field.
When you say you raise it and lower it, are you filling the entire however many seconds the shot is, or are you just up, down?
This is, I know from experience with this light. So this is up, sweep to the left, sweep to the right, and then bring the light back down to my belly to block it. And then, making sure I've got the foreground. So I'm just bringing it up so it can cover the foreground, and then over to the left and over to the right and bring it back down. Doesn't take much time at all. So this whole thing is a 15-second exposure. So it doesn't take much. And we'll set exposures in just a second. So this is, once again, the Savage light, the LED light, and we'll talk about how to do these star trails in just a bit. So with this one, it's letting the camera be in the dark for an hour and a half. And then when I go to pick it up, just take the light and just sweep the area in front of it to just kind of put light in front of it. And then that's all we need. So it's just a simple sweep with the light. Last exposure. Same thing here. Camera's been out in the dark for a couple of hours, and then holding the light off to the side so you see the shadow on the yucca down in the lower left, so that I'm getting that light just coming into the exposure. So this light's a really, really good light. Really, really good light. Well worth the investment. Now here's another idea. So this is a 4-minute exposure. No stars up there because we've got overcast sky. This is in Ireland, Burchell Abbey in Ireland. This is a 4-minute exposure, f/22 ISO 100. So in that 4-minute exposure, I'm once again walking through this whole ruin, painting the exterior with my light.
Oh, okay.
And then inside all of the windows, you see all the windows there? I bought a box of 24 battery operated candles. You know, those little candles you see on the table at the restaurants? So I bought a box of 24 of those. So in each one of the windows, there are those little teeny weeny candles. And anywhere that you see light in the interior of this ruin, we've just placed a whole bunch of those little teeny weeny candles. You know those little candles I'm talking about? Fake candles? Yeah. So I just bought a box of 24 of them. And then we just walked around the interior of the Abbey and placed our little lights everywhere, wherever there was a window, 1 or 2 lights, 3 or 4 lights, and then got everybody back ready to set up. And then they set up on a 4-minute exposure, which is just simply bulb, B-U-L-B, and then using your cable release to hold it down for 4 minutes. We timed it with our cell phones. That's all we did. And then in that 4 minutes, I'm walking around the exterior of the Abbey, falling in all the potholes and all kinds of other stuff, and just painting the exterior. So this is just done with tea lights, little teeny weeny tea lights. And this is the same thing, but done in a slightly different way. And this is one exposure after another, one exposure after another, one exposure after another, and one exposure after the other. So all we're doing is a whole bunch of 30-second exposures. And during that time, when everybody just has their camera on aperture priority at a 30-second exposure, they're just clicking, and I'm walking around on the outside of the Abbey and painting it once again.
And you're blending in post?
I'm blending in post, exactly. So by blending in post, what we mean by that is that I'm going to open all of my pictures in the series. So there were 4 pictures in this series, and I'm going to open them as a layer in Photoshop. So if you're using Lightroom, you would highlight all 4 of your pictures or all 5 of your pictures. Let's just use 4 for right now. You would highlight all 4 of your pictures, and you would go up to the top and you would go edit, edit in Photoshop layers. So in Lightroom, you would go edit, edit in Photoshop layers. And when you said edit in Photoshop layers, it'll open Photoshop and it'll load them into layers. If you're using Bridge, like I do, then we would do the same thing. We would highlight them all, and then we would simply go up to Tools, Photoshop, load into Photoshop layers. And then all 4 of the pictures would open up into Photoshop and open up into layers.
Good, yeah.
And Janaki, you remember doing that in our textures class, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. And then once we get them over into layers, and you have instructions for this in your handout, then I would highlight all 4 of my layers. And under the blending mode, I would go down to lighten, and you see it happen while you go through each one of your blending modes. And lighten is only going through each one of the photos below or above the bottom one. It's looking at each one of the photos for any light in that photo that's not in the original photo. So any light that it is seeing that's different, it's adding it to the final photo. So each one of the times that I walked around on the exterior of that Abbey, photo 1 had light in here, and photo 2 had light in here, and photo 3 had light in here, and photo 4 had light in here. Now, once you learn how to do this, this has multiple uses across your photography. So this is a definite cool thing to learn. Once you get it down, it's got lots and lots of uses across your photography.
And sorry to interrupt, but
Go.
you mentioned your textures class. Is that where you go into depth on some post stuff like stacking and blending and those techniques?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The textures class, Matt, is where we make pictures look like oil paintings.
Okay.
Yeah. And we add canvas to the background or, you know, gnarly surfaces or bricks or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Questions on this one? Because once again, you won't learn how to do it until you just put your hands on it. And once you put your hands on it, right, Janaki from textures class, once you put your hands on it, then you're like, okay, I got it. You just got to put your hands on it. So I've given you your handouts and or your instructions, and then you can at least get the basics going. So this is called a layer blend, okay? So what we're doing is we're blending the layers, and with lighten, the lighten blend is looking for any light in the other photos that's not in the first photo, and it's adding it to the first photo. So that's called a layer blend. And I'm going to come back to that in just a bit, okay? So this is another way that you can paint with light. And this is called a pixel stick. And it looks like a lightsaber from Star Wars. It costs $350, but it is one cool device. Jim, did we play with this at Featherfest by any chance?
I don't think so.
You haven't played with this one with me? Okay, okay. So this is a pixel stick. And once again, it's just an easy little device, cost about $350. And this is what you can do with a pixel stick.
There you go.
So the rainbow pixel stick is just straight out of the box. This is my grandson, Seth, and he's learned from an early age that when grandma says, stay still, stay still, stay still, he can freeze pretty good, okay? So what I did with him was I told him, here's what's going to happen, Seth. Camera's on the tripod. I've got a flash and the shutter is going to open. The flash is going to fire. The flash is going to turn off. And I'm going to say, stay still, stay still, stay still, stay still. Don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move until I tell you to move. Okay. So for that 20 seconds that it takes his dad, who's behind him with the pixel stick, to walk by twisting the pixel stick, that's what makes all the colors go behind him. So he can't see this at all. Nobody can see it. It only records on film. So this is called a pixel stick. And if you get wild and crazy with a pixel stick, you can do this. So this is me walking through the marsh with a Jaguar photograph loaded into the pixel stick. And I'm just holding the pixel stick still and walking through the marsh for this 30-second exposure. And notice how we even have the reflection of the Jaguar in the water. So this is just me in my rubber boots walking through the marsh. So this is a pixel stick that you know, you're not going to use this every day, but it is a really cool little device. And then this is the pixel stick, some fish. And the people in my class don't see anything except me walking with this big, huge light. So that's all they see until they look on the back of their camera. And then when I hear them say, oh my gosh, I know that they see what they're supposed to be seeing. So this is a pixel stick. And then we can even set the marsh on fire with a pixel stick. So this is how if you had a fancy car and you wanted it to be coming out of the flames, this is how you would make the fancy car come out of the flames. Pixel stick. Yeah. So you won't use it for everything, but it is a lot of fun. Okay. And then you can also paint with light just through using something like a lamppost. So this is the harbor in Eshwara, Morocco, and there's a giant, huge street light behind me. And it's lighting up the harbor, of course. And then the light is spilling over onto the old fort area. But as the gulls fly through the harbor looking for fish, they look to me like flying fish. So those are gulls flying through the light. So that's painting with light as well. And then
Can you use moonlight as your painting light?
You can use moonlight as a painting light, exactly. Yes. So when we have those nights when we have full moon, if you can see that with your eye, and I'm sure you've been out on a full moon night before when you've seen your moon shadow, you can use that as a painting with light also. This is simple Coleman lantern to paint with light as well. The men in Morocco sitting around the square. They definitely did not appreciate my female friend who was in my group going and sitting down in front of the light. You know, they started yelling at her. And so it was like, you know, you better take this picture fast because we're not going to have much time with these men. But that's just a Coleman lantern. So it doesn't have to be anything spectacular to paint with light. It can be basic man-made lights as well. And then if you have a black light, flashlight, we use them in the desert to hunt for scorpions under the beds and stuff like that. So as a kid, I always had a little black light flashlight to make sure there were no scorpions in my shoes. I still look for scorpions in my shoes to this day. But if you point that black light at that scorpion, it reflects, it's iridescent or fluoresces. And so now all you've got to do is have somebody not hold the scorpion, but manage the scorpion for you, and somebody to hold the flashlight for you. And then you can photograph scorpions. So you can paint with light with a black light if you want to. So different ideas. The lights of a hotel are painting with light. So the different ideas of how we can illuminate the foreground. So questions on painting with light before we talk about vehicle taillights. Janaki.
Kathy, the last picture you had that you just showed before this, what was the exposure on this?
The exposure on this one, because we're dealing with the stars, the pinpoint stars, it's 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
So this is a 20-second. And then there's lights around the hotel. This is in Big Bend National Park. There's lights around the hotel. And then unfortunately, a car also drove through this side of the photograph over here, the lower right side of the photograph. Okay, so vehicle taillights. So Christina, you tried this one already with your vehicle taillights. Jim, you did vehicle taillights too.
Yes.
In your picture. Okay, so you all are going to do this intentionally in your homework assignment. So for vehicle taillights, we can do this come twilight. Once again, come our nautical twilight or our astronomical twilight. This is when we can get our vehicle taillights. They look better now than they do during total darkness. But this one, for instance, is the taillights going past me, going through the tunnel. I did this one for the Photographing Big Bend National Park book. So the taillights going away from me, the car going away from me. And we found the first go around that I didn't have enough light. There wasn't enough light with just the taillights. So this is also emergency flashers, as well as a little bit of brake lights, and the brake lights, especially when my friend got in the tunnel, to light up the tunnel a little bit more. And so this is 30-second exposure, driving with the tail lights, emergency flashers going, and then putting on the brake lights when we get into the tunnel to light the tunnel up just a bit. Out in the middle of the desert in Big Bend National Park, it was July, blazing hot at night. We were the only two out there, just two women with a camera and a car driving up and down in front of the tunnel over and over and over again. And when we finally had enough and I got my picture for the book, we loaded into the car, drove through the tunnel, and the Border Patrol came down off the hillside and blocked our way. And my friend freaked out. And so I told her, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. And I got out of the driver's side with my hands up, you know, and they of course saw me. And I said, do you want to know what we were doing? And he said, yeah, we've been sitting on that hillside watching you for the last hour and a half, trying to figure out what in the heck you two were doing down there. So I had to tell them we were working on a photograph, but they were watching out for us the whole time. Yeah. Tail lights from the freeway. This is my secret location, but I'll tell you all what it is. It's the Hobby Center garage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you go up there with me, Jim?
Yes, I was up there with you, and I tried to go the night I took that nightscape picture, and the garage was closed
Oh, drats.
because they don't have any shows on now.
Oh, okay. And they close it when they don't have any shows.
I don't know. There was nobody there to ask, and
Okay.
there was just a kind of a homeless tent assembly by there, and I
Okay.
didn't feel like getting out and asking those guys.
Exactly, exactly. Well, it's usually a public parking garage, but with COVID, they might have shut it down when they don't have a show going on. And from the top of the Hobby Center parking garage, you can see the Pierce elevated. So just you drive up to the top of it, hang off the edge, and you can see the Pierce elevated.
It's a tremendous view.
Yeah, it is a good view. If you don't want all the lights running into each other, then you do a short exposure, 1/4 of a second. If you want to do a long exposure, on the other hand, all the lights might run into each other. So if you go up here and you do an F22 at a 30-second exposure, you're just going to get continuous red lights or continuous white lights. So in this case, coming towards you, this would just be a steady stream of white lights. So I like it better when I go an f4 or an f5.6 so that I get a shorter exposure. And then there's a break between each one of the lights. So this is facing one direction and the previous photograph is facing the other direction. It's a great vantage point of the Houston freeway system and pretty safe to do as well. So taillights once again. Now remember I talked about this with the Abbey where I blended the 4 photos together and used the lighten mode. You can do the exact same thing with your taillights and your headlights. So this is in Marrakesh, Morocco, and we're on top of one of the buildings like you see across from us out of the square. And there's one motorcycle coming through at a time, one headlight, one taillight, one headlight, one taillight. And I took a whole bunch of photos because you can see all the people moving around down in here. You see that? F22, so you know I'm using a 22, F22. But there's only one motorcycle at a time, one motorcycle here, one motorcycle there, and it's not very interesting. But when I took all those pictures, never moved the camera, took all those pictures, moved them into a layer blend, did exactly like I just showed you, and went to the lighten mode. Now all the photo is, all the software is doing is looking for every bit of light that wasn't in the first photograph that's in the second, or the third, or the fourth, or the fifth, or the sixth. So this is just 30-second exposure after 30-second exposure after 30-second exposure. One motorcycle here, one motorcycle there, blend them all together, and now that's what I was looking for. So this is a layer blend using taillights or headlights. So you can use these layer blends on all different kinds of light sources. Make sense?
Okay.
And you can do the same thing here. So once again, out in Big Bend National Park. So next year I'll offer 2 workshops out to Big Bend. My one this August is already full, but I'll offer 2 next year if you're interested. So this is my friend once again driving her car all the way down the road. We determined how far she needed to go and when she needed to come back. And then because of the streaky stars, you can tell that I'm using a 4 exposures up here. So this is a 16-minute exposure, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, and 4 minutes, and then all blended together to get all the car trails going all the way down. So it's once again a layer blend. Car trails. Same thing, twilight shot. And this is once again, but we can't go 4 minutes because we don't have enough, we're not dark enough. The previous photograph, you can see that we're fairly dark and we're seeing a lot of stars. And so we could get a 4-minute exposure. But this photograph, we can only get 30-second exposures because we still have the twilight sky up. But it takes the car about 4 or 5 minutes to drive all the way down to the end of the road. And so the car drives all the way down with the tail light showing, turning on the brakes here and there. And then with each exposure, we just have to start over again real fast so we don't get a break in the tail lights. So that's where we're using that programmable cable release again so that we don't get a break. And so we just set it for 30-second exposures. Somebody drives down the road, comes back up the road, and then maybe drives back down the road again, comes back up the road again, maybe drives down the road again, comes back up the road again. And then blend those in a layer blend and choose the ones that give us the photo we want. We don't have to use all of them. We can use as many as we want that give us the tail lights that we're looking for. What'd you notice, Jim?
I was going, this is a real general question that, anyway, when we on our tripod for longer exposure shots, do you turn off your image stabilization on your Canon or leave it on?
When I do any shots like these, then I turn off my image stabilization. But if I'm generally on my tripod for bird photography or something like that, then I don't turn off my image stabilization because I'm still moving my camera pretty good. But this is a no image stabilization, no autofocus, and then setting the exposure to make sure that I'm getting a 30-second exposure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Questions?
Where is your focus point? Just out of curiosity.
My focus point is right about down in here.
Okay.
So using that photo pills again.
Yeah.
So if I'm using my 15mm lens, which is this my 15mm lens, I focus 10 feet away, and that gives me all the way up to the front of the camera, as well as all the way to the mountains in Mexico in the background. Yeah, so I'm focused about 10 feet away, right about here.
So what would be the difference if you didn't turn off your image stabilization?
If you didn't turn off your image stabilization, what happens is your lens might kind of jerk just a little bit, and you might not get as clear of a photo as you wanted. But I'll admit, I leave that image stabilization on a lot and I just forget all about it. So it's better in this type of photo if we turn it off.
I just add, nobody has a Sony, but my little Sony is real terrible for that. If you don't turn it off, really, it blurs the picture
Okay.
for these light trails.
Yeah, so it's moving.
It's
too
really a
much.
bad camera if you don't turn the stable. I mean, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't turn the image stabilization off. Yeah. Yeah. We also, with each new shot, we don't want it to go hunt for something to focus on. So, you know, if we focus in one spot, turn it off, turn off the autofocus, turn off the image stabilization, then it just helps us out a lot.
I know you're probably going to get into it later,
Go ahead.
next session, but when we're doing the night sky stuff, getting that focus set initially, what's your thought process or workflow, or how do you do that?
Yeah. So, you know, all of this, you've almost got to create yourself a little checklist for this type of stuff. We've got to turn off the image stabilization. We've got to turn off the IS or VR. We've got to turn off the autofocus. And, oh, go ahead, Matt. Ask me the question again.
Well, so trying to focus in the middle of darkness.
Trying to focus. Yes. Yes.
Go to manual, obviously. Right?
You go to manual focus, exactly. Now, on your Canon lenses, you're going to rotate the focus ring until the infinity symbol has the white line lined up next to it. I'm going to show this to you. Nikon, you're going to rotate the focus ring until the gold line lines up with the gold infinity symbol. Christina, that 18 to 55mm lens does not have an infinity symbol. So you're going to need to focus on infinity before you go out to do night photography, and then turn off image stabilization. And turn off autofocus. And if you can, tape the lens down so that you don't move it.
Okay. And I'll practice too, because my other two lenses should have that.
They should have it. Yes. 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 So Canon, there's a little white line right before the infinity symbol, and there's another white line on the barrel of the lens. You line those two white lines up. Nikon, there's a gold infinity symbol, and you line that up with the gold line. Matt, you're mirrorless like I am, and Jim, you're mirrorless on that little Sony. We line up the infinity symbol on the back of the camera. So we go into the live view on the back of the camera, turn off autofocus, and then you get an autofocus line. and you line that up with the infinity symbol. And Jim, whether yours with Sony is lined up with the infinity symbol or slightly before the infinity symbol, that's what you got to test with Sony. Canon, we're right in the middle of the infinity symbol. Okay. Now we have fireworks coming up because, what was that?
Because it's going to rain on the 4th of July, you know.
Well, you know, okay. I'm hoping, you know, I'm hoping, you know. So fireworks, hopefully we've got fireworks coming up this 4th of July. Let's see what we've got. I already know from living in the Woodlands, they have already announced where the fireworks displays are going to be fired from. And they have also already announced when the pre-fireworks are going up. And the pre-fireworks go up in the twilight sky. This is so everybody knows whether they're in the right spot or not. These are the fireworks I want. I want the fireworks that go up in the twilight sky. Because the firework display here for me in the Woodlands begins at 9:30 at night. I'm sorry, people, the kids are grumpy at 9:30 at night, and the kids are all irritable at 9:30 at night, and everybody wants to go home. We need to set these fireworks off at twilight, you know, but they're not listening to me, obviously. So to do your fireworks, here's how you do it. So you set your camera on your tripod. I put my camera in aperture priority. I set my f-stop on 5.6 and or 8, f8. 8 would be a longer exposure, so you would get longer streamers coming down. 5.6, you would get shorter bursts. So if I do 5.6 or 8, I kind of alternate between them. ISO 100 or 200, cameras on the tripod, we should have plenty of light. And then obviously on a tripod. If you do f22, then you're going to get really nice long drapes. But if another burst comes up in between, while you're waiting for your shutter to close, you're going to get overlay of fireworks and it's going to be too bright. Turn off your autofocus and focus on one of those tall pine trees. So I turn off the autofocus, focus on one of the pine trees or a building or something like that. And then I'm just using my cable release. I time when I click. So you're in aperture priority, the camera's all shut down. The projectile for the firework goes up. Don't fire yet, don't fire yet. The burst begins, fire. Don't fire while the projectile is going up. If you click the shutter while the projectile is going up, the sky is dark. So when the exposure begins, when the burst begins, the light meter is set for a dark sky, not for a bright sky. So you're going to overexpose your fireworks and you'll get no color in your fireworks. So hold your fire until the burst begins and then click. And then the shutter opens, and when the exposure is taken in aperture priority, you're going to get your color in your fireworks.
Good one.
Learn from me, okay? I've blown this enough times. So focus on the pine trees, focus on a building, and turn off your autofocus. Don't even try to do the autofocus. If you're like me, that you happen to have neighbors who like to fire off a whole lot of fireworks, then maybe you photograph your neighbor's fireworks display instead of the big, huge one. So just in case, you know, so that's always something you can kind of learn from. But figure out where the fireworks display is going to be. Use your basic little pencil and paper map again. Figure out where you need to stand. And then if your neighborhood advertises when the test fireworks are going to go off, then be ready for those test fireworks. Because they're going to send up 4 test fireworks this year up here in the Woodlands, and they advertised that. So I know exactly where I need to be when those test fireworks go up, because that'll be at twilight. So this is, you can see F22, starburst on the lights. That gives me a real big drape. And then figure out where you need to be in advance. You know, where your vantage point is going to be. When the police came by and said, do you have permission to be there? I said, yeah. And they said, well, we're going to put the tape up, so you have to stay till it's over with. I said, cool, no problem. I'll just stay right here. So figure out where you need to be, get there in advance. Don't wait till the last minute. So figure out where you need to be. And then Matt, you talked about going to the Kemah Boardwalk, right? So Kemah Boardwalk sets off fireworks every Friday night, as well as the 4th of July. And this is the top of the parking garage. And you have to get there early, park your car right up against the concrete facing the amusement park. I think you know what I'm talking about. If you don't park your car against the concrete, your bumper absolutely against the concrete, you're going to go up to the parking garage and people will be between the back of your car and the concrete. And you won't be able to get in.
They're not.
So you can get there early, park,
Yeah.
you know, just get right up against the concrete, go and have dinner or whatever you want to do. And then when the fireworks display begins, then you can just move your car gently away, put your tripod up there. And this is just a great vantage point at the Kemah Boardwalk.
Right. Interesting.
And then your focus point here is just simply on these pylons.
Mhm.
And then you turn it off and just enjoy the fireworks display. So nice and simple and easy to do. Kemah is one of the best places to do the fireworks display, if it doesn't rain, obviously. And then you remember that layer blend that we did with the car taillights and the painting with light? It's the exact same thing with fireworks. You get one really, really good display and you want to throw something else in there. What happens if we layer 2 of them on top of each other? So, you know, we can do the exact same thing with our fireworks. We can do a layer blend with our fireworks.
And how long is this exposure at this time?
Yeah, the exposure here, I was getting a little carried away, Jorge, because this was at the very beginning of the display. So they're just sending up one firework at a time. So this is when I set on F22 so that I can get a really big drape of the firework. And I really like these blue ones. So I'm kind of a sucker for these blue fireworks.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can see down at the bottom, I've got starburst on all the lights.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're in priority, so it's setting the shutter, correct?
I'm in aperture priority, so it's setting the shutter speed for me. And then I'm just watching it as the night goes on, but by this time it's dark. So the exposure is pretty much the same for every single one of these.
Okay.
But you just want that image stabilization turned off. You want the autofocus turned off. And there's another thing that we want to turn off, and make a note of this. It's called long exposure noise reduction. And it's inside your camera. And supposedly this is to help you not get as noisy photographs. But if you take a 30-second exposure, you can't take another picture for 30 seconds because it reprocesses on a black screen. So if you take a 15-second exposure, you can't take another picture for 15 seconds. So turn off long exposure noise reduction.
Kathy, may I ask, do you ever use long exposure noise reduction?
No.
That's what I thought.
No. You know, we have so much noise reduction software out there, and these cameras, the new cameras, we just don't have that much noise anymore. So no, I do not ever use long exposure noise reduction. So figure out where your vantage point is going to be. Figure out where your fireworks display is going to be. I always like to figure out my escape route so that I don't get stuck in traffic. So figure out, how you can get out of there pretty fast. Figure out where you need to be and get in there and get out of there. That last 4 or 5 minutes when they send all the fireworks up into space, just sit back and enjoy that because you cannot photograph that. It's way too bright. Also, you notice with fireworks here, the smoke, and you all have seen this with fireworks displays around the Houston area. If it's humid out, then we're going to get a lot of smoke. Take your pictures in the beginning and then just don't worry about taking pictures toward the end because they all just look bad toward the end if it's real humid and we get a lot of smoke. Okay, so questions on fireworks? No? Okay, so this evening I sent you all new homework assignments just to clarify them because I've included fireworks and then we did the moon the first go around. So if you didn't send your moon pictures in to me, go ahead and send them in. If you want to try the moon, it's much higher in the sky right now, but if you want to try the moon, go ahead and try the moon and photograph it. If you didn't get around to it last time, go ahead and do it this time. But your homework assignment this time is photograph a scene where you paint the foreground with light. And you're learning. I don't care if this is your house. I don't care if it's your car. Just, don't feel like you've got to go some exotic location. But on the other hand, if you want to go someplace fun, then, photograph a scene where you paint it with light. So you can use your basic flashlight if you want to. And then I want you to use a different light on another scene. So photograph a scene where you paint the foreground with a different light. So use that. Christina, how old are the kids?
He's 2.
Oh, okay. So he's kind of little. Okay.
He does not cooperate.
He doesn't cooperate. Anybody else have small kids? I know, Matt, you've got teenagers. Anybody else have small kids? No? Okay. So the little kids at the playground with glow sticks in the dark are really, really cool photographs. So, if Matt, if you can talk the kids into running around with glow sticks, then those are some interesting photographs.
Right.
Yeah. Or if you have to strap some glow sticks to the dog, try that to see if that works. But those glow sticks work pretty well. So try that. It just might give you a way that you can get out there and get your photograph and still involve the children if you have to. Okay. So the glow sticks, or Christina, you mentioned a husband. So even if he's got glow sticks and he's running around with the kids at the playground, that's a good picture too.
Yeah, I'll try that.
Okay. Yeah. And then photograph a scene with a car taillights or headlights. So you're going to need a buddy who will drive the car up and down the street or up and down the park or something like that with the taillights or the headlights. And then the fourth one is I want you to photograph a scene with fireworks. So your own fireworks, you can do your own sparklers if you want to, or if you want to brave it and go to one of the fireworks displays, then do that. So you've got your moon stuff to catch up on. If you've already done your moon stuff, now we've got 4 photographs this time. Questions on your homework assignments?
Clear.
No, clear? And then go ahead.
So for fireworks, I'm going to be at the beach.
Ooh.
And so the firework display that is at the closest town is going to be pretty far
Okay.
away. So what lens would you recommend for stuff that's much closer?
So you don't want to drive to that town? You just want to stay where you are at the beach?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to, you could see, you can still use your 18 to 55 for fireworks because it keeps you far enough away. But even if you wanted to just set off some fireworks on the beach, or if you can't do it, you can't do it. But if
Well,
you,
there will be people setting off fireworks up
Okay.
and down the beach. I mean,
Okay.
but they're going to be much closer, I guess, because they'll be really close.
yeah,
They'll be dangerously close.
yeah, dangerously close. I would do those ones on the beach. I wouldn't even go if you knew that you were going to have some fireworks, you know, that people will fire off around you. I would do
Mhm.
that. Yeah, I much prefer the backyard fireworks and the big displays. And you know there's going to be people out there doing wild and crazy stuff.
Well,
Yeah. And with the beach, it should be pretty interesting. That would be fun. You might even be able to stay up on your deck or on your balcony and not even have to go down there with all those crazy nuts.
that would be nice.
See if you can do it. Okay, other questions about your homework? Jim, are you going to stay down there in Rockport?
No, I'm back in Houston. I'm gonna be in Hunt.
Oh, okay.
Kerrville.
Yeah, so you're going to the hill
And
country.
yeah, they have a fireworks display, but we don't go to it because it's chaos, you know, with the, so we'll have to see. We have neighbors who shoot stuff up for 2 days, so we'll try to set up on a balcony and catch, kind of like fishing, try to catch one of those guys.
Yeah, yeah,
But other than that, the rest of the stuff is doable. Well, it'll be good.
Good.
Good experiment.
good, good. And then since you're going to Hunt where the skies are fairly dark, you might look ahead at your next homework assignments and do some of that
Yeah.
work while you're there.
Yeah, the remarkable thing about the weather in the hill country is for the past month, it has rained virtually 4 or 5 days a week.
Yes.
We do telescope work. And in 1 month, we've had 1 or 2 nights where we could see the stars, believe it or not, in perfectly dark skies.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating, but I know they're going to open up for this assignment. I will mention our name to the big time.
Yeah. Don't pass up a clear night. That's all it is. Don't pass anything up. Yeah. Yeah. I have a new piece of equipment that I've been trying to use. And of course, can I do it? No, because I never have a clear night when I'm free to go out and do it. So yeah. Yeah. Don't pass up a clear night. So any other questions? You all set?
That's it.
Okay, I cannot wait to see what you all come up with. If you've got any questions, I'm around all week, so email me with any questions. And then whenever you're ready to send your work in, then feel free just to use that same Dropbox that you used before.
Good.
Okay, my friends, thank you all very much for joining me. I'm going to stop the recording.